Hey Mike, Hunger Games just came out in theaters and it looks awesome. Let's go to the movies, man.
Nah, man, I'm just hanging out watching TV.
What? You would rather sit on your lazy butt and watch TV all day instead of going with your bro to the movies?
Yeah, man, I mean, TV, I have everything I need right here. I have free food and beer in the fridge, my own bathroom. I don't want to go to the movies.
What? Dude, TV doesn't beat the movie experience. Turn this junk off.
Did you just turn off my stories?
Yes, I did. We're going to the movies, man.
We're not going anywhere.
I'm gonna choke you.
The differences between the film and the television viewing experiences have been a widely heated topic of debate recently among fans of the entertainment industry. In this documentary we're about to present to you, we decided to explore the pros and cons of each.
So I don't want to say this word, but I sort of feel like that you fall in love with the characters. You know, you sort of see the story develop every week. You know, the suspense, it's there. The storyline, it's there. When compared to if you go to the movies, it's over an hour and a half. I mean, I'm sure you go to the movies because you like the characters and stuff, but I still feel like TV shows are a lot better, especially in the sense that I can be home, chill on my couch, you know, have my dog around me, whatever, have my girlfriend, whatever, you know, just sit down, watch the TV show together. When going to the movies, it's a lot of trouble, I feel like, and a lot of people don't want to pay for the movies.
I prefer to watch a shorter episode, about 30 minutes or an hour long, and then really see how the character develops on a weekly basis. My favorite show is How I Met Your Mother, and I love watching it at home and over the 4 or 5 seasons that it's been on TV, because I get to see, you know, what actually happens with the characters in the future versus the movie where I feel the character development and the plots are kind of rushed because there's a short time.
The thing about like going to see a movie is that, you know, it's nice to go out and once in a while, you know, take a date somewhere. But, you know, you have to sit through commercials for like half an hour. You have to deal with people crowding around you. You have to pay for really expensive concessions, and you have to spend for the movie ticket. And I guess I just like everything better at home, where I can choose when to watch and I don't have to leave, you know, my comfort zone.
Okay, one thing that's good is you are put into a community where you can talk about what you see with television. And I think the viewing experience, you sort of absorb everything. Maybe you talk afterwards, but you don't have this spontaneous interaction with what you're seeing. And I think that makes television viewing, even if it's in the family, but if it's just with a group of friends, a more communal experience. I think that's a good thing. I'll tell you what the problem is. Film has anticipated its audience now as this 14-year-old kid who likes gadgets and stuff and things exploding and all that. I usually see the coming attractions for everything I'm going to avoid. And so films that have a kind of human dimension, there are fewer of them, they're not considered marketable, so that's, and so it's much harder to get an intimate film that has some kind of meaning, that's a little complex, that you have to think about. It's harder to get that in the film situation.
You're crazy, man. TV is so much better.
Films are better than TV. Watching a movie in a dark setting leaves me with a unique experience that I can't get at home. I mean, if I'm watching a really good film like The Pursuit of Happiness, which was phenomenal, when I leave the movie theater, I feel a sense of excitement, enthusiasm, and energy that the film left on me. I couldn't get that same feeling from watching a TV show, for example. Movies all the way.
I definitely prefer film a lot more, if only because there's no real distractions. I mean, when you're in a setting like a room, like a living room or something like that, like this, and like it's well lit, you're usually going to be with friends or somebody, or it's going to be, you know, you're going to have your computer at hand or something, and it's really distracting. You don't get the full experience from what you're watching as you do in the theater.
There's television cutting into that. I'm not sure it's television, because I think something's cutting into television. or broadcast television, and that's the internet. And first of all, people get their news from the internet. They don't really watch news programs together. They don't have the opportunity to discuss things. You return in a way to that private thing that film had. When you watch stuff on the internet, you just sort of, you and your computer, it's very hard to have that communal thing, except for the, Facebook, that kind of stuff, which is ersatz it's not really communication. You're not really in a dialogue. I mean, sometimes you are, but I think that the proliferation of mediated images, programs, that kind of thing, has changed what we do as a society in terms of visual images. And so everything has kind of changed. But I think with film, I think it would be really nice to have the kind of situation that they had in France in the 20s, that they had with the New Wave, the Cine Club kind of things, where you see something, it can be new, it can be current, it can be a historic thing, but then you have a whole discussion with it. Instead of just having that kind of thing going on in the classroom, to have in either film or television viewing, something that enables that conversation to continue. Soap operas provided that kind of opportunity to discuss things, because everything in a soap opera happens and then it's discussed endlessly. So, somebody has sex with their cousin or whatever, or, they have some kind of crisis, and then everybody talks about it. Everybody in the soap opera, and then it proliferated outside of the soap opera. Now they've canceled most of the soap operas because they're too expensive to shoot, to produce, you have to pay actors and all that kind of stuff. But what's also been canceled is the thinking. And the shows that have replaced the soap operas, which did involve a certain amount of fantasy, which was, these are lives that are glamorized in some way or intensified. What's replaced them is these kind of like lifestyle cooking shows. I know what replaced All My Children is something, it's cooking style. It's like absurd. Nobody can afford to eat that way anyway. And so it becomes this kind of pseudo entertainment that's completely mindless. These are shows that don't help you think critically. They don't help you with relationships. They don't help you assess a political situation. But they create a mold for a certain kind of entertainment, and that's what our politics has gotten into now. The horse race, the commentary, who's spending what kind of money, and the substance is pretty much lost. So I have no final assessment about it, but I think things are evolving, and I think we need people to sort of analyze those things from a social perspective. Here's an interesting thing, that the fantasy is not a thing, it's a process, and it's engaging the dream operations. And so that is a kind of, you can't harness that ability to connect people on that level, the unconscious. But what binds us as cultural beings is that we all dream.
To further understand the differences between television and film, we looked into a chapter in this book by this author. In the chapter, she explains the workings of the cinematic apparatus and the psychoanalytic construction of the film viewer. Jean-Louis Baudry's cinematic apparatus describes what is technically different about film that will affect the spectator. Things such as a dark room, projector, camera, lights, immobile seating facing a brightly lit screen, a beam of light from behind the spectator's head. The film proceeding from behind the head is psychologically effectual, the back of the head being where fantasy locates the focus of all vision.
No, I'm not gonna hurt you. You work for me, remember? I know what you did. You're a damn terrorist. All right, just get the hell out of here.
Baudry claims that the viewing experience in the theater itself can be effectually womb-like to the spectator. So just think of the theater itself like a giant womb and the walls are the placenta. Supposedly, the womb-like effects of the theater viewing experience trigger the unconscious desire to return to an earlier state of psychic development, one before the formation of ego, in which divisions between the self and the other, internal and external, have not yet taken shape. According to Christian Metz, the spectator in front of the movie screen is like an infant in front of a mirror. This references the mirror phase of child development when an infant develops an ego when it can finally identify its own image in the mirror. This is analogous to how the viewer will see the character on the screen to whom they are encouraged to identify with. Primary identification is linked to the camera positions that articulate the film. The camera provides the spectator with the all-seeing eye that make identification easier, as the viewer perceives everything that needs to be understood through the main looks of the camera. It's important for a filmmaker to hide his own influence from the spectator. That way the spectator will have a better chance to forget he or she is watching someone else's fantasy.
You know what, man? We could just go see a movie.
You know what? I'm glad you're on my side. Let's go.
Let's do it.
Hopefully our discussion that we just presented to you has given you some new insights on the television and movie viewing experiences. But no matter what you think, I think we can all agree, it's not something worth getting all choked up about.